Good evening to everyone who's tired of the bullshit and ready to finally do something about it. I know this is probably not the face that you wanted to see sitting in a chair on some live stream or internet program, however you want to put it, in front of you, about to give you another lecture about American democracy and your future and our values and what's going to happen to this country. But that's what you get. Personally, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. There's a million other things I'd rather be doing than risking my own life and time and future prosperity to warn you about what's going to happen with this country and where we're headed. But frankly, I don't think it really matters what happens on election day. Whatever happens, this country is frankly doomed if we don't do something about it. And when I say we, I mean there are two separate groups of people in modern America. There is people who care about other people, people who have evolved into adults and through proper upbringing or life experiences have somehow gleamed that empathy and working together to create a better society is the way forward for humanity. And a collection of infantile children who think that your future and my future should be decided by a team sports popularity contest straight out of a fucking high school musical. They've engineered this entire election, this vocal minority of spoiled little brats who refuse to grow up and constantly blame everyone else for the problems that they create, who have no desire to take accountability for what they've done to this country, for what they've done to our lives over the past 50 years, as we have slowly watched the living standards in this country and our essential level of trust degrade over time to a point now where I think most people will tell you, if they were born in this country at least 20 years ago, this isn't the country that they recognize, that they grew up in. And the saddest part of all is this is all deliberate. And within that sadness, what's even more unfortunate is it's not deliberate in the sense that there is some giant cabal of masterminds planning the misery of your own life and the destruction of our collective futures. No, it's simple greed, short-sighted stupidity, and the necessity of what we now call our international financial system that necessitates all of this stupidity every 2 years. And frankly, in every other country that holds democratic elections in the West that has a central bank, because that's the idiocy we've subjected ourselves to. You see, after World War II, a deal with the devil was made to defeat communism. A collection of people became allies who otherwise would not have worked with each other. And this group of people, who we will later expose in further content, they thought it was a bright idea to essentially detach the value of our monetary supply from any fixed peg of value. So previously, we all operated underneath a gold standard or some form of precious metal or backed currency, essentially. What they did is they put us on not just a fiat currency, but essentially an unpegged fiat currency, slowly over about 100 years. And in the 70s, it culminated with Bretton Woods, which was like the light switch going off. Sure, we defeated communism, but at what cost did we defeat communism? At what cost? And the cost, guys, is that our entire society is now controlled by bankers, essentially. Everything. We have a multi-layered monopoly where the people who are in charge of the creation of our monetary supply have essentially used their position to purchase up everything else in society. We have mainly in every industry a collection of companies that form a central monopoly. Usually it's between 1 to 3. If you're lucky, an industry maybe has 5 companies that are consuming 80% or more of the business within the given industry. And I call it a multi-layered monopoly because on top of those corporate monopolies exists the monopoly of shareholder capital, whereby if you look at the top shareholders for all of the given stakeholders in any industry, they're all the same. So I think people throw around words like Bilderberg Group and Davos and other stuff, and they think that, yeah, this collection of oligarchs is intelligent. Well, speaking as a member of the global intelligence community who's had the misfortune of having to keep tabs on some of these traitors, vermin, they're not intelligent. They're just greedy, and you're lazy, and you want their money, and you want to have an easy life without trouble, and you don't want to make problems for yourself and your family. And I understand all that. I was someone who went along, go along to get along. I did that. Part of me did that during this election. Sure, I could have done this months ago, but frankly, after they sent old Joe to the Attestupel, I wasn't about to stick my neck out for clown Mala Harris, who is pretty much, I guess, the only person they could find that was less qualified than Donald Trump to sit in the office of president. So you got to realize that you're a slave, I'm a slave. We're all a slave to this system. And why do I say that we're slaves? Because we work for fake money. The money that's in your pocket, that's in your bank account, it isn't real. It's not backed by anything serious. If their actual dealings were ever exposed, their financial empire would collapse overnight, and what backs our entire economy would go up in smoke. So they essentially rely on that to survive, knowing that they've made us all complicit in our own slavery, because the alternative would be a chaotic collapse of the global financial system. So we're all collaborators. And that's while they're not only, paying us with worthless money, but then making that money intentionally inflate in value to rob us even further, so that the dollar we save today will have maybe 20% or less of the purchasing power by the time we retire. What's that? That's just a backdoor to screw you. Screw everybody. You got to understand, in this society, there are slaves, which is everybody who isn't somebody. You might not want to admit it, but if you're on the side that 99% of society is on, as in you're not a slave owner. But there's a collection of people in the middle who I call the plantation overseers, who have somehow tricked themselves that it's advantageous that we all operate in this society where the only value anything has anymore is as an economic function. They've sold out, and they've sold out your dignity and my dignity and the dignity of your families and your future children and all future children. For what? For fake money, for temporal status. Why? So they can be slave drivers on a plantation state that's operated by people who are about as creative and worthy of power as a late-stage Roman emperor. Yeah, That's pretty much it. They'll work on any, and obviously what we're talking about here is your classic, anything from classic corporate middle management to academia to, you know, pharma, and there's all these little individual plantation states that operate within a plantation society. And you have the majority of people on those different plantations are essentially slaves. A small collection of Massa's most loyal overseers to make sure the livestock work real good. And that's really what corporate management comes down to nowadays. How much further can you squeeze the lives of human beings to extract value from them? And what's the fucking purpose? Shareholder returns? Shareholder returns. Shareholder returns is as the highest human virtue. And they wrap it all in shit like DI and ESG, but it's all a load of horse shit. It's essentially them taking money out of the pockets of working people and putting it into the pockets of people who have never stepped foot into a fucking honest job a day in their life. A day in their life. These people have essentially proved to you they can engineer an entire election through the media and will either go along actively as collaborators, like the clapping seals of the Democratic and Republican parties, or will do like I did for over a decade, and that most people do. They just go along to get along and accept that they can't change anything, so why bother? Why get upset? You just got to look out for yourself and your own and do the best you can. Well, you know what? That mindset gets you an even worse society that gets worse every single day. And I think that's observable now. I think that from 9/11 until today, the degradation of our rights and our value as individuals has gone so far off a cliff that no one can deny that we're at an impasse now, where we have to make a decision as humanity. You know, we can either continue to answer to this troika of tyranny that made a dirty deal to defeat the Reds and set themselves up over Western civilization, or we can fight back. Now, what does fighting back mean? Well, it's certainly not something that's going to be described in a YouTube video short enough for you to actually watch. Let's be realistic. That's going to take months to get into. And that's frankly why I waited until election day to come forward. Because what was the point? I'm certainly not going to help Kamala Harris get elected. And anyone who's ever read a copy of the book I wrote knows my feelings on Donald Trump intimately. So the amount of people who are going to be ready to listen to the fact that we need an alternative is not going to be higher until after this election, unfortunately, because there's going to be a whole lot of people that are very disappointed one way or the other. And frankly, everyone should be disappointed, because with each election that progresses, things just get dumber and dumber and dumber. And what? For what? So that a bunch of oligarchic donors can battle over the window dressing? Because that's all they fight over. I mean, it's nothing significant. No one has any solutions to the problems, the actual problems affecting this country, because they're all built in. And why do you want to fix something that you benefit from? I mean, take immigration. Immigration is such a complex issue. It's even easier to understand when you realize the economics of scale of the whole thing. So in the third world, they've been doing this disgusting thing for several decades, whereby they abort their female offspring to have larger families with more male children for various reasons: prestige, economic incentives, whatever you have it. So you have multiple countries like Nigeria or India that have surplus male populations in the tens of millions. These men will never find gainful employment. They'll never find a partner. They'll never start families. They're essentially a societal deadweight that's just sitting around ready to throw a revolution. And that's not going to work for international capital because they need those places to extract resources and cheap labor from. So they're not going to want to see any kind of government put in place that actually gives a shit about the dignity of anyone that lives there. So what do? Oh, they realize that, well, certain social policies we've pushed in the West have also forced people to not be able to have families and to think of children as a burden instead of a blessing. Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll prop up our female, our fiat economy, and we'll solve the problem of females not having children by just bringing all the surplus men into the West. So you need to understand that Donald Trump's never going to fix immigration. The Democrats are never going to fix immigration because they're oligarchic donors who rely on the global financial system for their wealth and power, need this immigration as a function to keep their regime afloat. Has nothing to do with diversity or humanity or wanting to help people. And it has everything to do with keeping a corrupt financial system slowly chugging along like it ain't got a problem. The people who pretend to want to help the immigrant, okay, it's noble. Especially when it comes to America, we all came from immigrants at some point. Even the friggin' Indians walked over a land bridge 10,000 something years ago. Okay? No one is native to these shores. The difference is immigration before the 90s was not nearly this forced or malicious. And it's all because of the abortion problem. It's all because when they brought family planning into the third world, they created a monstrous surplus male population that they didn't know what the hell to do with. So guess what, Westerners? You get to benefit from that. You get to get screwed. Your quality of life gets to decrease. And it's not necessarily because all these immigrants are bad people and all the other horse shit that, the pundits like to spout out. It's simple economics of scale and civics. We don't teach civics, so most people don't know what the hell that is. But when you keep packing people into a society and you don't upgrade any of the infrastructure, your quality of life degrades. Yeah. When you keep importing people from lower developed economic societies with lower wage and work expectations, you degrade the value of labor and destroy the middle class. But just staple a green card to the diploma because that'll fix it. That'll keep it chugging along for another couple years so the boomers can reverse mortgage their fucking homes and take another vacation. And that's why we're here. Because none of you vote in primaries, but old people do. And the man on the TV tells them that they vote for these shit. They vote for these. I don't know how to be diplomatic about this. If they vote for these puppets of the oligarchy perpetually telling lies to their face that everything's going to be all right. But anyone with half a brain knows that's BS. Anyone with half a brain knows they've been getting snowed by now. I mean, if you're in... I have sympathy for all the people that are going to go pull a lever today for one or the other of these vermin and say to themselves, they're not as bad as the other one. I have full sympathy for that. At least you're being honest with yourselves. But the reason we have these two vermin is because there's a collection of, like I said, infantile children in this country who won't be honest with themselves. Who won't admit that we've been treated like livestock and that we need to do something about it to reclaim our collective dignity as a people and as individuals. Your value exists solely because you do, as does the value of all creation. It doesn't exist because you make money for someone else. It doesn't exist because you're pretty or rich or because what you can do for other people. Your value exists as a creature of God, as an artifact of creation. And society forgot that somewhere along the way. We forgot that we need to appreciate people. We forgot that every single person's contribution to society has value. We forgot that human beings aren't something that you can program like a computer, like an algorithm. That we're complex creatures with a hierarchy of needs that need to be met to unlock our full potentials. And you know what? A person's full potential doesn't have to be some kind of CEO or world-renowned artist or race car driver. It doesn't have to be some stupid, nonsensical title that we ascribe value to. You should be appreciated for your contribution to society, whatever it is. That is the right you have as a member of a functional society. But we don't do that anymore because, you know, the middle management has to keep the CEO happy. The CEO has to keep the board happy, and the board are just keeping a bunch of multinational parasitic investors happy who don't give a shit about anyone but themselves. So you're completely left out of that equation. Everyone deserves the opportunity to earn respect. What does that mean? You know, that if the DEI folks actually understood what the word equity meant, they would understand what respect means, but they don't understand either of those words. Respect is something that is vital to human character and development. The ability to earn distinction among your peers in a meritocracy. The ability for any individual to distinguish themselves, not just necessarily on talent or ability, but through effort, through compassion, through any number of areas where they rise above and beyond their peers. But no, what do we appreciate? We appreciate shallow, superficial things. We appreciate what makes money, what gives us orgasms. You know, essentially like an adolescent, too immature to grasp the life they're wasting. But hey, you know, do what the marketers tell you to. Everyone deserves as well to be loved and to know what love is. And I don't say that superficially, but we are genuinely living in a society where we have a significant portion of the population that doesn't really know what that actually means. To be treated with dignity, to have a relationship with someone that isn't a surface level series of transactions. It's tragic. People have more look, take the incel epidemic. We laugh about scum like Andrew Tate and stuff that like that, but no, young men really have a problem. And we have more empathy for stray dogs in shelters than we do for them. So that's why they turn to shit mongrel pimps like Andrew Tate to tell them what it means to be a man. And they grow up loveless, not knowing what it means to love and be loved. And a society where a significant portion of the male population doesn't know what love means is a society without a future. Now, I can speak on behalf of men. From what I've seen of my female friends, not too much better out there for you guys either. I don't think you're happy having to wade through a sea of morally questionable men with, and I say men very loosely here, with Peter Pan syndrome, who don't know what the fuck they want out of life and are perfectly willing to waste your time to find out. So we got to get back to loving each other and learning what that means and what it encompasses. And then we have to go back to having a society that's safe. And I don't necessarily mean the crime in particular. What I mean is we have to have a society where our communities and our neighborly bonds are healthy enough that we feel comfortable being vulnerable with each other. We feel comfortable turning to each other for help in our worst moments so that together we can rise above them. A safe society is a society that can solve each other's problems without needing government to create all kinds of burdensome regulations and laws and barriers to entry like the current insane nanny state has done. A safe society has a functional border and can control who becomes a member of it. I mean, that, and like I said, if you want to be a humanitarian, I'm not against immigration with assimilation. But if you don't have a border and if you don't ensure that the immigrants who come to your country assimilate into its culture, you don't have a country anymore in several generations. And personally, I'd like to have a country. I'd like to be able to raise my children in a place that isn't a corporate favela society. I don't think we're going to solve everything with a single YouTube video, and I've probably droned on long enough. Half the people that started have probably already stopped watching this. But if you're still here, I'm glad. Thank you, because this is where we start, is being willing to listen to each other and admitting to ourselves openly how bad things have become, so that we get out of our comfort zone, we get out of our shell, we get out of the complacency we've put ourselves in. We get out of listening to that voice in our head that says you just get to keep your head down and worry about yourself and take care of yourself and your own people. Because it doesn't work. We are all part of society. We all have to live in it. And the effects of us ignoring it are all around us right now. I mean, ultimately, this is going to require many years of work, and nobody wants to hear that, but it's going to. I mean, my life's work is humanity's emancipation, and my greatest joy will be seeing your dignity restored to you. But that starts with you, because all I can do is talk, and I can use my connections and the limited influence I have to try to make an impact. I can only do what any of us can do. But I need you, and the world needs you, and you need you. You, right now listening to this, need the opportunity for the first time in your life to test what your true potential is. I want you to discover what it means to be a member of a community, a society, to share bonds with people you're willing to struggle with, to sacrifice with, and to build a better tomorrow with. I want you to earn your future. I want you right now in this moment to ask yourself, What are you willing to do to live in a society that makes sense, that appreciates you, that respects you, that loves you, and that makes you feel safe enough to be yourself and to grow? But hey, or you could just tune out and turn back on what you were listening before this and go right back into the slop, the cultural rot. It's your choice. And I hope you make the right one. Until the next time, I wish you the best. We'll meet again soon.